Good afternoon, everybody. So glad we got so many folks here, a lot of important people in this room. So we can talk about the recovery from Hurricane Matthew. Another 100-year storm that occurred 17 years. It brought this community together, it's brought North Carolina together. It's just, it's really impacted a lot of lives. And I'm so glad that we've got so many people here who have worked so seamlessly together to make this a moving progress to success. And today we got a real special guest in the room with us, and this gentleman down here to my left. He served in the House. He's from National North Carolina, so North Carolina. He served in the Senate, and he was Attorney General, and now he's the 75th Governor of North Carolina. Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank everyone who's been working so hard since this storm hit us. There are not going to be any more hurricanes named Matthew. That's because it was so devastating. And Wayne County is one of the 4 counties where it hit the hardest. You all know what it was like. I came down shortly afterward and viewed some of the damage. It was devastating. I was living in Rocky Mount in 1999 when Floyd hit. Nothing's really like floodwaters because it just doesn't leave anything. It just destroys everything. And recovery can often be frustrating. It is long term. We want it to be as short as possible, but as a practical matter, it takes a while to fully recover with the economy and getting people into housing and getting businesses back up and operating. I wanted to come today to hear from you, hear some of the good things that have happened, also hear some of the frustrations that I know exist. And I brought our team here with us. I have the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety, Eric Hooks, here to my right. I have a guy who I have tasked that many of you know from city and county municipal government for years, Debsy Benton, who is going to be the Hurricane Recovery Director. Many of you know Mike Sprayberry, who is the head of emergency management. Of course, he worked with you all very early in the process, and General Assembly did a little something different than what it normally does and appropriated community development block grant funding to be administered by the Department of Emergency Management, which is a new deal. So we're working through all of that, but I think it's going to end up being very positive for everybody out there, and we want it to be. When Hurricane Matthew hit, there were 25 roads closed in Wayne County. There are 4 left. We had hundreds of families in hotels and didn't have housing, and we still have a few more. Even one is one too many, and there has to be more work done to do that. Being the good Presbyterian that I am, I'm forced to find something good out of something bad. Something good was mentioned earlier, the sense of cooperation and togetherness that people find during disaster. And I think Wayne County and the towns, Goldsboro, Seven Springs, y'all have been hit so hard. And I think that cooperation certainly has helped to strengthen you, and it shows what kind of people who live here in Wayne County. Strong people who believe in and respect and thrive from the military, people who are resilient, and I think that that's what we have here in this county. The second thing is that Hurricane Matthew puts a spotlight on things that we as leaders already knew, but that the public at large may not know, is the lack of affordable housing, particularly in rural North Carolina. Sheriff, you know that. And thank you for being here and for your law enforcement efforts, because I know that your department was tested as well. So what we want to do in this recovery process is to be even broader than addressing just the damage from Hurricane Matthew. is to recognize the issues regarding affordable housing, that people need affordable, clean places to live, and that we need to create more opportunities. With the hurricane hitting, a number of people who were in the affordable housing business have just said it's not worth it, and they're walking away, and it's difficult to find places for people to live that are affordable. People need that help. They need assistance with down payments and advanced rent and finding those places, but also long-term, we need to find affordable housing solutions. So we have requested more money from the federal government, just a little under $1 billion. We're waiting for that result. We've also requested more money from the North Carolina General Assembly, and we're sort of trying to wait to see what the feds are going to do before we do that additional leg from the General Assembly. We've also put forth a plan of how we're going to invest the money that has already been appropriated. And, most of the money will go to 4 counties in North Carolina, Wayne being one of them because of the devastation. So what I want to do is to open it up, Mr. Chairman, and if you want to call on people, that's fine, to hear from you all about how things went in the early hours and days and weeks of this disaster, and what can be done to improve, or certainly to praise the people who worked during that period of time, what's happening now, and what we see for the future.
If it's all right, you introduce your team, I'd kind of like to go around.
Absolutely.
So you'll know who you're talking to, and I'll start to my right.
Okay.
Ray Mayo, County Commissioner of District 1, Belfast, Pikeville, Fremont, Eureka, and over to 581 Rosewood, Walmart.
My name is County at-large commissioner, and I'm accountable to everyone in the county.
My name is John Bell. I'm a county commissioner for District 3 and been a county commissioner for 16 years.
Stephen Potter, Mayor of Town of Seven Springs.
Barbara Raycott from the town of Fremont.
Tommy Brown, the Chief of Police in Mount Olive, and I'm filling in for Mayor McDonald.
Kendall Lee, I'm the Facilities Director for Wayne County. Antonio Williams, City Councilman, District 1.
I'm Mel Powers. I'm the Emergency Services Director for Wayne County.
Mike Dunsmore, I'm the Superintendent of Schools.
I'm Charles Brown, Town Manager of Mount Olive, and Mayor McDonald sends his regrets. He's a little under the weather.
Scott Stevens, City Manager for Goldsboro. Chuck Allen, Mayor of Goldsboro.
Larry Pierce, Sheriff of Wayne County.
I'm George Wood. I'm County Manager.
And Libby Turner obviously is the FEMA representative for this area. And, we keep asking and asking, you know, they keep giving. We got some more work to do. Clearly got more work to do.
There's actually some more work on the wall, too.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Paul Barker and Eric Wilson are with my staff.
Oh, okay. Chief Crumpler, Wayne County Planning Director.
Charles Wright, President, Wayne County Citizens for Better Schools, also on flood victims.
Constance Corn, Concerned Citizen, NAACP, and various other organizations.
Craig County Code Assistant County Manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. Diane Curtis, Eastern Branch Manager for North Carolina Nursing.
Roger Ingram, Female External Affairs Officer, working with Libby Turner.
Mike Wade with FEMA External Affairs.
Brian Jeremiah, FEMA Intergovernmental Affairs.
Bill Herbert, Operations Branch Director, working with Diane Curtis.
Tim Pratt, Intergovernmental Affairs FEMA.
Kim Walker, Department of Public Safety. We're Jeremiah, Department of Public Safety.
This is our local paper.
I know about him.
Steve, too shabby.
Thank everybody for being here.
I'm not gonna run the meeting, actually. Because we tasked him with that job, so. Step on it.
Well, I thought what we would do, first of all, is what you just said, Governor. We'll give a little bit of background on what happened and then where we're at now. I won't go into everything. Everybody knows we got hit pretty hard on October the 8th. The main thing is we had a tremendous rainfall. The average in the county was 14.5 inches. And in localized areas, we received up to 19.5 inches. So it was just an unbelievable deluge. We had a small tornado hit down, not too much damage there. But we obviously got a new record. Our record flow on the Neuse River had been 28.9 feet. That was employed in 99. The normal stage of the Neuse is 6 feet, and the flood stage is 18 feet. This one went to 29.7 feet, and when it crested in the Neuse River, and this was determined to be a 500-year storm. Our second one in 17 years, I might add, so the statistics aren't real good. We did have 3 deaths, but only 2 were related to the storm. We had a number of roads closed, but we think DOT's done a very good job of getting those back open immediately, and now the long-term corrections on that. One thing that is unique to us, and you can see on the map on the wall back there, when we get flooded here, this county gets cut in half. When you see that large blue area cutting across the county, that is the Neuse River Basin. And so that presents a lot of unique challenges for the county in maintaining our services. We rely pretty heavily on the town of Mount Olive there at the southern end of the county. They stood up a shelter for us and took care of feeding a lot of emergency management folks. We also the sheriff set up a command post south of the river at the fairgrounds, and we were able to use that as a large staging area. So I think we did a very good job of anticipating that. Of course, with a flood, we had warning of a couple of days. We knew it was coming, so we tried to make those preparations. One of the biggest things we had to deal with was the fact our landfill is on the southern end of the county, so we made arrangements with Wilson County to use theirs on the north end. I do want to point out one thing on our landfill. We had to dispose of 4 million pounds of dead turkeys. And most of them had been underwater for 3 or 4 days by the time we got them. So it was a mess. It was an unbelievable mess, but our people handled it very well. As far as infrastructure losses, Seven Springs, as y'all know, got pretty well devastated. Our emergency medical services station there got flooded out, and we're in the process now of replacing that at a different location, but near the town. They also lost their fire station, and we lost a sewer pump station on South US 117, which we're in the process of applying for grants for that. As far as housing, as you mentioned, Governor, we still have about 23 families that are dislocated. 9 of those are in temporary housing assistance. 14 of those are in 14 of the 15 FEMA trailers that are in the county. And so, as you said, we need to try to get those people relocated as soon as possible. As far as the hazard mitigation grant program, we are going in together with Goldsboro and the town of Seven Springs. So that's this date. I think some of the other towns have gone in and have done it separately. But the county is wanting to acquire 300 properties that were flooded. The estimated cost of that is $31,843,000. We want to elevate 23 single-family homes in the elevation program, and that'll be $3,913,000. We have 34 homes submitted that were solely from Seven Springs. Everybody knows they got hit extremely hard. 22 homes were substantially damaged, but not in the flood zone. Of course, the flood zone is the 100-year flood, and this was a 500-year flood. And then I believe Charles Brown, town manager of Mount Olive, has submitted, I believe it's a request for $150,000 for a backup generator through the HMGP program as well. And we would hope you would do that. We want to set up an emergency shelter down there in a former school, and the town has just taken ownership of that property. Under Golden Leaf, I'm happy to report that we put in for several things, and we've just been notified this week that we got 4 of those. We put in for $300,000 for that EMS station in Seven Springs, and Golden Leaf notified us this week that we got that, the full $300,000. We also put $178,000 in for the pump station off of US 117. They also funded that completely. So both of those projects are taken care of. I was informed this morning by our Soil and Water Conservation Director that we had put in for debris removal because we think a lot of our primary streams and creeks and things need to be cleaned out. dragged out. And so we put in with both Golden Leaf and with the Disaster Recovery Relief Program, and both of them gave us full funding. We asked for $237,474 for Golden Leaf, and we got that, and we got $223,961 from the Disaster Recovery Relief Program. So we're extremely pleased with that. I guess as far as looking ahead, the biggest concern we all have, and I know y'all heard this, and you'll hear it probably from all 50 counties, but it's just our folks get a little frustrated with the length of time it takes to get a determination from people. And it does kind of put them in a catch-22, because if you get flood insurance proceeds or regular insurance proceeds, and you've put in for the buyout, it puts them in a catch-22 as to whether to go forward. And so that, I think, is an issue for a number of our people. I don't know what the answer to that is. I know it takes y'all a while to go through your process and all of that, but that is a concern for our people. The second one, I think, is that some of the local governments, ourselves included, are a little bit antsy about getting reimbursed for our portion. Ideally, we'd like to see the check before June 30th, so that we don't have a big receivable on our balance sheet for that. But again, we understand you got to go through the process. But the county, I think, is better able to fund its share of it. But some of the municipalities, it's a big hit. And I know particularly Goldsboro is taking a big hit. I think it's, Chuck, I think it's in excess of $3 million that y'all have spent. Is that correct? That's a pretty big portion of their budget. So with that, I'd like to move on to the Resiliency and Redevelopment Plan, and I just want to comment, we appreciate y'all doing that. That was a good move that the legislature and the governor came up with. What I'm going to do now is just go over some of those things that are in there, and some of them you'll see we had down were some of those that were funded. But under housing, the governor mentioned again the need for more low and moderate income housing, because in Goldsboro, they took a big hit in that area. And of course, Seven Springs also took probably the biggest hit on that. But under housing, we continue to pursue the buyout program, the elevation program. I think we made a decision early on with Goldsboro that we would do that together. So we filed a joint application on that, and that's worked out very well. Our two planning staffs have worked extremely well on that. Under economic development, Fremont is looking for a natural gas expansion. Downtown Goldsboro has several projects in that application, as y'all see that. Seven Springs is looking for a plan on redevelopment. They're also looking for a way to flood-proof some of their businesses. And there's some talk about a Neuse River Regional Trail development, so we're looking at that. One in particular that the county and city are working on is the city is looking at replacing Herman Park Community Center. And what we would like to do, and one of the requests is if we can get that upgraded, we'd like to expand the number of showers and restroom facilities, and then have an emergency generator, and that will make an ideal emergency shelter for us. We've been using schools, but as y'all know, when you have a prolonged event like we've had, Dr. Dunsmore with the school system worked with us very well, but at a certain point, we've got to turn those schools back over to him, or that impacts, their school year. So what we're looking at is trying to make that the center they intended it to be, but also to where we can convert it to an emergency shelter very quickly. There are several Goldsboro Park projects in this. They're also looking for some help on the mitigation of impacts to businesses. We had a number of businesses that were negatively impacted by this. On infrastructure, we're looking for trying to have, what we've talked about at the county is trying to buy 2 emergency generators that would be portable. We would have them on trailers. Because depending on where we get hit, we can move those around to some of our different school buildings, and we will pre-wire those with automatic transfer switches. But we feel like the answer long term is we need to have a couple of those in county. Because y'all are very good about getting us generators when we need them, but we need some where we can stand up almost immediately.
What do they cost?
Kendall?
200 kWs, around 80,000.
We'll need a couple of those. The rest of the infrastructure, I've already talked to you about the Seven Springs EMS station. Again, that's been funded. The Seven Springs Fire Department replacement has not been funded yet. I think the city is looking for renovation and reconstruction of 2 fire stations. Another one, I think that I just want to endorse this. Goldsboro has been doing a stormwater study and is getting ready to put in a stormwater utility. But one of the biggest things, I was on that committee, they asked me to serve on it. They need to do a mapping and assessment of their whole system in depth. And that really needs to be done so that they know exactly where they need to go from here as they start getting that money in. So we would be very interested in that. And Fremont and Pikeville are asking for the same thing. There is also a list of stormwater and drainage projects in there that I think predominantly are in Goldsboro, but they're in some other areas as well. Then the creek and debris removal we've already mentioned. I believe by getting funding from both that we have fully funded all of the areas we were looking at, and that was a substantial amount of the streams in the county. So I think we'll be in good shape going forward there. And that's pretty much what we're looking at. Those have not been prioritized yet. As y'all know, we're finishing up those. I believe they're due May 1, if I remember right, Mike.
That's right.
So that's pretty much an overview of where we're at. I know other people may want to give you more details on it. But before I open it up for other people's comments, I just want to thank y'all for all the help y'all have given us. Mike's office in particular has been tremendous to work with, both during the storm, immediately thereafter, and now with the long-term recovery. We can't say enough for y'all.
Thank you, sir.
And I think a lot of the pre-storm and immediate aftermath, the relationship was excellent. Everything we asked for, we got, and we got in a timely manner. But I think one of the best things you do here is the early warning. The estimations of the flow coming downstream at us were pretty much on the money. The other thing I do want to give one group of particular praise for, and that's the city of Goldsboro. When we first started, I asked Scott Stevens, the city manager, I said, at what point do we need to worry about losing your water plant? And he said 29 feet. Well, then Mike's group started sending those reports that said this thing could get 30 or 31 feet. Well, obviously, we got real nervous about that. But they went out and sandbagged it. They were able to put some pumps in, and we got them some more pumps. And as we said, it crested at 29.7 feet. So if they hadn't done that, we would have lost the water plant. And as all of y'all know, that could be a 2 to 3 week process, getting that back in operation. And just as importantly, that is the fire suppression system. So that was a big save for us. And obviously, the city's putting in to build those dikes up. And if we would endorse any project, it would be that. That needs to be done. Because I'm sure y'all already know this, but our estimation is that when you think about it, the Neuse River drains Durham, Wake, Johnston County, and then gets over to us. And we all know over the last 17 years since the last storm, how much concrete and asphalt and buildings have gone up in just those 2 major counties. And when you get a flood like this, there is no retention or detention ponds, so it's all coming at you. And that's why we got even more this time. And it's coming at you faster. So I can't stress enough that we're going to do that. I believe a couple of the other towns, Mount Olive and Fremont, are also looking at some things to beef their systems up. I know that, Charles, I believe you kept the water plant going, but you lost the sewer plant, is that right?
We did. Water plant, both of them were up and running, but we did lose the sewer plant and had to kind of improvise for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So any assistance we can get in kind of hardening those facilities, I think would be money well spent. I also want to thank Golden Leaf and really the legislature and the governor, because y'all gave the extra money to Golden Lead. And if everybody else like us, I'm well pleased with how they're spending the money.
Got a pretty good record there.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, we've got an outstanding planning director who's written all these grants for us. And the other one is the Department of Commerce, because again, they work with us as well. But we were extremely pleased with the level of cooperation. And I do just want to echo one thing that's already been said by the chairman, that is Wayne County works well together. We come together, all of the communities, the cities and the towns come together, and I think we have a very cohesive team when these things hit. I was very pleased with how the operation went. With that, they had asked that I moderate this, so does anybody have anything they want to add?
Go ahead. Well, first off, Governor, it's been said, but it can't be said enough, is how thankful we are from the federal level to FEMA, to our state legislators, to you, former Governor Corbin, Secretary Sperry, and even our own people. The response, the cooperation we had was unbelievable. And it really was people helping people. It didn't matter who they were, what their race was, what their income was, what party or anything. It really has brought this community together. And so it really does your heart good to see that. If we had two weaknesses that I saw, that I still think we need to work on, one is shelters. We did, and George has alluded to that, and I'm sure it's not just in Wayne County, but shelters, we do need to figure out a better way. And you touched on the other one here in Goldsboro, we still have 100 people not in homes. So affordable housing is really important, how we get these people back into their houses and get affordable housing, because that is going to be a problem. I do believe that we need to get people out of the floodway as much as we can, but we still got to find a place where we live. I'm going to let Scott ask for all the money. The two other things that have come up in conversations with the mayor of Greenville, the mayor of Kinston, and the other is over the years, and y'all might know more about it than I do, certainly, there's been talk of some type of regional watershed, like in Johnson County or somewhere, and there was a discussion about that years ago. And I don't know if there's any planning you can even look, is that a possibility? I don't know that you can change God, but I don't know if that's something we can look at. And the other side of that is that I've heard a lot of, is everybody believes we ought to somehow figure out how to dredge the Neuse River. Because, the water can't get out of there, and you can walk in the river in most places in Wayne County. So I know it's the Corps has control of the river, but there are a lot of rules and regulations, and I don't know if there's anything that y'all are doing to look at that. But I've been asked a lot, so I think it's something that's worth bringing up on that. But equally, as the response was now, I'm really glad to see the response you're still carrying today, because most people after the emergency leaves, we all go on back to our lives, and it's really, really good of y'all to not let this drop, because it's hugely important to East North Carolina. So we thank you very much for doing this. I'll let Scott ask for the money.
Well, Governor, we've been working with your staff. We do have a plan. We'll leave you a copy of that. We've already put that up through emergency management. Again, we really appreciate the efforts there. We're trying to do things that would make Goldsboro better, not just recovery, but make it stronger and better, as we understood the resilient plans to be doing. So we definitely have had our staff thinking about ideas, and they're a creative group, so we've included some of those, not all. I would want to echo the mayor in terms of housing. We don't want to forget the folks that are still struggling for a place to live, because there's still people, as you know, that don't have a permanent home yet, and they really are the least able to afford how they look after themselves. And we still hear stories that just are, break your heart, but I don't have an easy way to fix that for them. And that's something we as a community are very concerned about. The money flow, George alluded to that, he's covered us very well, but the money flow after 99 was almost instantaneous. It's not getting to the cities yet, at least through the FEMA and state grants. So those are things for us that I hope will get sped up. As we near the end of our fiscal year, it becomes more and more concerning from an audit perspective as we go forward. We'll figure it out, but anything that we can do to move the money quicker would really help us a lot in terms of the local governments. And then the other piece that I found very beneficial, and I was in Kinston in the 99 flood, we bought out 700 or 800 homes in Kinston. Those families weren't impacted this time because they were in the floodplain. And things that led to that, one, the 96 flood and the 99 flood came so quickly that people didn't want to be there twice. But the bigger piece that helped was the gap funding from the buyout from FEMA to what paid that differential of a home in the floodplain to a home on the hill, and anything we can do to move people and give them that option so that financially they can afford to get out of the floodplain, I really think is better. It's better than elevation, it's better than everything. They still have to want to go, but if we don't make it financially possible, then many people don't have that choice to remove themselves from the floodplain. Is there anything we can do to do that? We want to help support you to get there on that effort as well. So with that, I'll pass it back to George and let him kick it around from there.
Well, let me be the bearer of good news, first of all. Mount Olive, we actually signed 4 settlement sheets with FEMA this week. So once, it took a little while to get the wheels rolling, but once that happened, things are happening pretty quickly. We think we'll have our final settlements probably done by the end of next week, we hope. The big thing is the cooperation that we saw, not only in part of the county, as the county manager pointed out, if you look at that map, when it floods, we're kind of cut off in the south end of the county. And so we had to, but through no fault of anyone's, we had to kind of fend for ourselves. And I'm glad the chief is here today because he, have to give him all basically the credit for getting the shelters up and running. We got a local church with a mobile kitchen that came in. We managed by hook or crook to get our hands on a 53-foot refrigerated trailer and raided all the food pantries in the area with their perishables. And we fed 3 meals a day for what, 5-6 days?
I'd say 5 to 7 days.
Yeah. So anyway, we were able to handle that well. The biggest thing that we need, our immediate needs are reasonably well taken care of at this point. But George mentioned the shelter. We have a perfect site down there for a shelter for not just Mount Olive, but for southern Wayne County, Duplin, Sampson County. Most of our shelter residents were not from Mount Olive. They were from Seven Springs. They were from Duplin County. On Saturday night, we had the entire board, the county commissioners board from Duplin County spent the night in our shelter because they couldn't get home. So the main thing that we need, we have it's a former school site, and we've been leasing it from the county or from the Board of Education now since 2009, and I think we're just about in the process of having that deeded to the town. But we've got a commercial kitchen there with refrigeration. We have a cafeteria for eating. We have a gym that's got fully functional men's and women's bathrooms and showers, and probably would sleep 300 people. The only thing that we need to be able to stand that up on about a 30-minute notice is a backup power source. And George mentioned $150,000. We're still working on those numbers, but we have sent a letter of interest to the hazard mitigation program. So we hope that we'll be successful in getting some money to put that together. But, and I want to thank, by the way, the young lady who's standing back behind you with the camera. The source of information in this county, that's where it came from. And so I didn't have power at my house, but I had my cell phone. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I wanted to know what was going on in the northern end of the county, I knew how to find out, because invariably I'd have an email saying, you know, this is what's going on, this is what we anticipate happening. So I want to thank her, and also thank the folks at FEMA, because like I said, it took a little bit of time to get the wheels rolling, but once that was done, we've got 2 gentlemen right now working with us that are very dedicated. One of them spent the entire day yesterday at my desk in my office working to finish things up. So we want to thank them, and I really thank the county and Goldsboro as well, because I think, you know, we could not have worked any better together, and could not have been any more comfortable in the situation that we had. So at the state level, the county level, and even our neighbors here in Wayne County, you know, I think everybody deserves a lot of credit for how we all handled that situation. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes. Governor, I appreciate you coming here today. I appreciate when you came down during Hurricane Matthew and you visited the shelters. I really appreciate that. Overall, mostly all the hard-hit families come from District 1 and District 4. So we really need to try to get those families back into their homes. So anything that you can do to speed up the process, like our mayor said, you know, low-income housing, any of those things would be phenomenal. So we really need your help, because they're crying out to us. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you being right there with them and hearing them and carrying that message like you have continued to do.
Thank you, sir.
For Seven Springs, I'll add that I've already had a visit from 2 of your representatives, and I appreciate that very much. And they've got the information on how we would like to move forward. We were probably the hardest hit community in Wayne County. And I do not see us surviving unless we can find a way to merge our residential community with a recreational one. And I won't belabor that point, but I will follow up with what Mr. Brown was talking about. I'm one of those South of the Use residents, obviously, and I wound up working in the shelter at Mount Olive for 83 hours that week. And the Mount Olive Police Department was outstanding. And all of Wayne County, especially southern Wayne County, owes the town of Mount Olive and your fine staff and yourself a tremendous debt of gratitude. But I do appreciate you being here, the interest that you're giving us.
Governor, I'm Barbara Raycott from the town of Fremont. Fremont was kind of caught off guard like a lot of the parks here. We started getting calls from residents, you know, because we have such a high poverty level in our area. And affordable housing and repairs is really needed in that area because of the high poverty rate. Most people there cannot afford anything different, and when you have a disaster of this nature, it can put a big strain on the people. They have nowhere to go unless the local government reaches out and tries to help them as much as we can. But like a small rural town like Fremont is, we have limited resources. And when those limited resources run out, we have no help unless provided by the state or FEMA or whatever. And like I said, FEMA has been great with us. We finalized our final contract settlement sheets last week. Hopefully we can get our money back in before the fiscal year, like mentioned. But we do appreciate the state stepping in for the 25%, because a town like us, 25% is a whole lot. And that has really, really helped us get through a lot of our issues and everything. And I would like to personally thank everyone here at this table for that. And thank you for coming to Wayne County.
Governor, I'd just like to throw out at you, since you visited the Make a Difference Food Pantry with Mackenzie and Paige. The hurricane was Saturday, and on Sunday, Paige and Mackenzie reached out to us and said, hey, we've got plenty here, come get whatever you need. And we visited there on a daily basis. And had it not been for Paige and Mackenzie, a lot of the residents, whether it be at the shelter or the Meals on Wheels folks that were in Mount Olive and some outside of Mount Olive, a lot of folks would have probably went home. So we're very thankful for them.
Well, I appreciate all of the people who came together and volunteered. Many of you already in public service, but just people came from everywhere and just put in hour after hour after hour. And I declared this volunteer week in North Carolina. So we want to all remember how important it is for us to pull together and volunteer. And after this meeting, I'm going to sign a proclamation, and Mackenzie's going to be there, by the way. We're going to call April 21st through the 23rd Youth Volunteer Days, because we want to instill this sense of community service with our young people as well. And certainly they've been prime examples of that. So we can't forget the government can do a lot and should do a lot in these instances, but can't do everything. And the hands-on, the churches, the people of faith who came forward and just poured out their hearts and their hands, it was a beautiful thing to see. But I think you mentioned earlier about how shortly after a disaster, the cameras go away and the attention goes away. And it's going to be up to all of us to continue to work very hard to make sure that we've got the resources that we need and that we make smart recovery. As mentioned earlier, that we really don't want to find ourselves right back in this situation, because many of the communities that were hit in '99 with Floyd were hit again. But because we learned some things with prediction of river levels and flood we had that information that we didn't have last time, and so it wasn't, you know, at least we could get ready for it a bit. And a lot of those areas that got flooded before got flooded again, but the people and the businesses weren't there this time. And a number of places had been elevated and were protected. But there were other places that got hit twice, and we got to learn from that and got to figure out exactly how to approach it. So it's not going to be easy. And we're going to have to all keep working, that's for sure. And one of the reasons I want to keep coming and getting updates is because I want us all to keep pushing. This is sometimes easier to forget the people that are suffering out there. We can't.
Governor, I'd like to say that, as I mentioned, I was commissioner for District 1, northern part of the county. Even though we weren't hit as bad as the southern part, and I do thank you for everything you said about everybody that's contributed. But I want to speak just a minute on the local level, how Wayne County has come together and did come together to pull together. I think one of the areas that I was directly involved with during that time is that I'm on the Department of Social Services Board, and we have to supply personnel for our shelters. And we already mentioned a lot of the employees, emergency services, first responders, the fire department, sheriff's department, police, all of us came together, but I was directly involved in the shelter side and the DSS employees. So what I'm saying is that all Wayne County employees, all of them, stepped up to the plate, no matter what location you were in the county, no matter where you lived, and everyone came together to pull this off, along with, and I'm not going to forget, the American Red Cross. They were right there with us. So I think that pulls everybody together in Wayne County, it did, to make things better out of a tragic situation. So that's the way I see it.
Governor, thank you again for coming. Wayne County, you were here, what, 3-4 weeks ago? We met at college. Also, you know what the college needs are, so we won't go into that. But as the at-large commissioner, my heart goes out to everyone in Wayne County. But one of my priorities right now is Seven Springs Fire Department needs help. The EMS station, as Mr. Wood says, we've got to handle. And I don't know what the status on any help is for them, but they are a rural department. They don't expect a lot from the county. They work hard. As all the departments in Wayne County has a tax levy for the fire departments, and I brag on Seven Springs, theirs is the lowest in the county. So they don't expect a whole lot. But they've been wiped out twice now in 17 years. If there's anything we can do to help them, and the process may already be started, I don't know, but that's one of my priorities, because my background, I've been in the fire service as a volunteer for 50 plus years, and I can't say I know what they're going through, because the department I'm involved with is in the northern end of the county. We really want to affect it. But thank you again for coming to Wayne County, and anything you do to help all the citizens of Wayne County, especially the ones that were affected directly. We appreciate it.
I know Constance wanted to ask a question.
Thank you, sir. I want to also say thank you for coming, but I wanted to inquire about what your intentions are with regard to the coal ash issue. As you said, as has already been discussed, that the landfills overflowed, the dams overflowed. So what would your consideration be for the issue of the coal ash? We know that water, came downstream and it has affected our area. Are you going to give any consideration to that?
I think it's clear that the utility should be responsible for cleaning up coal ash. And I do know that the new head secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality, Michael Regan, is already working on this issue, not just in this area, but across the state with the coal ash ponds. And we have to have a solution that's based on science, that's based on keeping our water clean and making as much as possible to keeping the expense off of the utility customers. I worked on that issue as Attorney General. I'm going to keep working on it as Governor. But we need a water supply, but that water supply needs to be cleaned. And that's important.
Thank you, sir.
Bill, did you have your hand up? I thought I saw your hand up. Did you have anything?
No, I was just going to thank 4 people in particular for what they did during the FEMA. And I don't want to forget about our county manager, our sheriff, the mayor, and the city manager, how they coordinated this effort. And we didn't miss a beat because of the fact that they were on top of everything. And I want to just personally thank you all for what you did during that time.
You can do that anytime you want.
Just to follow up on that, you know, some of the outside the agencies came in, you know, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army and all that, they do a wonderful job. But everyone that's in this first responder and emergency business knows the first 36 to 48 hours, it's on our county people. I mean, not only just Wayne County, but every county. And I take my hats off to them because they had their act together. I mean, they had a game plan, everything came together. I mean, not only the county first responders, but all of the cities. The first 24 to 36 hours, and this room was full of people, and every single one of them was working. So I want to thank our local people.
Yeah, and I'd just like to also acknowledge Mel Powers. Mel is our emergency management director. I know, Mike, you know him very well. He did an excellent job in coordinating all this. He worked pretty much around the clock, and of course the sheriff.
And he keeps us straight too, George.
Mr. Secretary, I'd like to just thank your folks out of the DMV offices, the enforcement people that came in, the wildlife, the guard. If you could convey that, please, to them. My office was stretched to the limits, and they stayed with us till we could get our feet back on the ground, so to speak.
Heather, you said, you know, about things we learned from the last one and what we learned from this one. I worked in state government for 30 plus years, and I know how the guidelines can be a little bit rigid sometimes, but I think I'm getting a few points that I wanted to go into it at this time. That there may be some people out there who need help that don't fall within the guidelines of whether trash is in the right of way or that kind of thing. So I think we need to show some places if we can. And I don't know if we can do that, but if we can, I think there's some things that we'll learn out there that where we could have helped that we've not been able to in the past.
Well, I'd like to, for either Nancy or Mike or Eric or any of our staff, if you want to respond, or whether there's some things that you all would want to bring out that they would need to know based upon this input. I know we'll try to get something to you more formally. You all have something.
Well, right, so Mr. Benton's going to talk about the community development block grants for disaster recovery. Y'all know that the state received $198,553,000, and we're working hard on that. He'll talk about that. Well, you need to know also that the state, we're looking at about $100 million for hazard mitigation grant program. And so we did an expedited letters of intent process to where basically focused on houses and things like that, whether they're going to be elevated, bought out, or what they call a reconstruction. And so we received those applications, those letters at the end of March, on March the 31st. The next suspense date, as you mentioned, sir, is on May the 1st. And so we will be getting other hazard mitigation projects like the generators that y'all are talking about, and at that time as well. And so what'll happen, what'll take place is we will, $100 million sounds like a lot of money, but with 50 counties and so much devastation, we're going to have to basically prioritize these projects and put them, you know, where we think is going to make the most benefit. And so we're almost done gathering up all that information. I'm getting ready to be briefed, and I'm gonna turn around and we're gonna go to Mr. Benton, and then we'll rack them and stack them, and then we'll issue what's gonna be coming. Now, you heard the governor talking about almost $1 billion as part of that package. We are looking at having additional funding to do exactly what you're talking about with hazard mitigation, supplemental hazard mitigation. I heard you talking about gap funding. And so that's something that the governor has requested in his package to the General Assembly for the State Acquisition and Relocation Fund, or SARF, and which was proved to be very successful during Hurricane Floyd. So, but as he also mentioned, we're kind of in a little bit of a wait mode, not for very long, but we want to see what's happening with our congressional request before we really go over to the General Assembly, because we want the feds to pay as much as possible, and so that's the goal there. So we have requested additional assistance from FEMA to get some more public assistance folks down here to ramp up the process. We know that y'all need the money as quickly as possible before fiscal year end. We're clearly aware of that, and with this gentleman right here being a former city manager, he's well aware of it, and we talk about it a lot. And so there's many different programs and everything. The governor has instructed us to put everything on the table and to consider all options. So I think Chairman Pate, what you had discussed about some different people or families falling through gaps, we're very cognizant of that, and we want to make sure that we are thinking of programs that will be able to assist those folks, not in the future, but right now, today. And so we're working very diligently on that, and so we understand that. So I'd like to turn it over now to Director Benton.
Well, before Dempsey starts, because that's the kind of opportunity that I was talking about, is using this as an opportunity to do some things that we should be doing anyway, because it has brought it to light. I would also urge you to contact your U.S. senators and your members of Congress. This request is very tenuous right now. It's $929 million. I think Louisiana is another state that's sort of in it. But we've been working with Senator Tillis, we've been working with Congressman Price, and actually a number of other members of our congressional delegation. But there's a lot of uncertainty at the federal level right now. So we just don't know about the results of that. So any calls that you all can make to people that you know in Congress to push this, we're doing everything we can from our perspective. We've got members of the General Assembly who are working on this too. But that will tell us a lot about how much we can do and how much more we need to do as a state. But Dempsey, can you talk about the CG?
So this is a sequencing set of circumstances as we're going through the recovery. FEMA and the project assistance part of it is now moving, hopefully at a little faster pace on the reimbursement. So that's moving through, and then Mike talked about the $100 million for the hazard mitigation fees, and that'll be moving through shortly. Coming right behind that will be the $198 million from the federal allocation that was approved earlier this year. The important part of that is that, as the governor mentioned, there are 4 counties that received the damage for housing. 65% of the damage for the whole area was in 4 counties: Wayne, Edgecombe, Cumberland, and Robeson. So this grant of $198 million that is coming, approximately $135 million of that is going to be focused on those 4 counties, you being one of those 4. And so that will be the next wave of investment. With the federal government, you have to jump through their hoops, and we're jumping. And they say jump, and we say how high. And so that's what we're doing. Right now, it's hoped that by June 20th or 1st of July, we will have gotten their final approval of our package for this grant. And in July, we will start looking at nailing down projects that we can then commit to among all of the counties, including the 4. So that's a time schedule that will come along after the HMG part of it that we work through, because HMG will not satisfy all of those needs. So when we go through that, don't feel like that's the end of the game, because we'll then be coming behind it with the $198 million package. We'll be meeting in the next couple of weeks with the local government managers in each of those 4 counties to talk about strategies about how we put this CDB program on the ground, how we collaborate so that we can be able to roll these out in a timely way and be accountable. So we'll be doing things between now and the end of June to hopefully be ready to operationalize when that happens. So that's the next wave that will come, and as the governor says, hopefully that the wave after that will be that $900 million that the governor has asked for additional funding. Over $600 million of that is for the affordable housing piece, and as we do the numbers for the magnitude of this impact, we have to have that $600 million to touch all of those homes and houses that were devastated. If we don't get that, we've got a hole in our target, and so it's really important that we have success with that request to be able to reach out to all of those folks who were affected. One final thing to say to you, as we look at this $198 million, we would love to be looking at opportunities for public-private partnerships so that we can leverage those dollars with private investments or nonprofit investments so that if we spend $1 million, we'd like to see if there are ways to get $3 million worth of housing built, again, to meet the governor's requirements that we really make a difference with housing. So as you think about where you want to be with the housing effort, think about whether there are ways to bring partners to the table, whether they are nonprofits or in other types of groups, even your banks. Well, you've got people who are interested in doing leveraging projects where you're thinking that's part of our menu. And so I'll just leave you with that thought to think about as we start getting our strategies together over the next couple of months.
2 other members of my staff, I didn't introduce Ryan Flynn. Ryan is working with Dempsey on hurricane recovery, and Jamal Little is with my public information office as well. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for this time. We appreciate it. We'll take what we learned and we'll keep working together. Okay?
Bring success to the problems.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.